Every 4 years, people say the same thing about Bitcoin. They say this cycle is different. They say the volatility is too high. They say it is too risky for serious money. And every 4 years, they are wrong. But what is happening right now in 2026 is genuinely different. Not because of the price, because of who is buying it, who is building on it, and what the smartest financial minds in the world are quietly saying behind closed doors. The fundamentals of Bitcoin have never been stronger, and most people have absolutely no idea. Welcome to Mr. DJ Finance. Let us get into it. Let us start with the macro picture, because that is where everything begins. The Federal Reserve has maintained a hawkish stance for longer than most analysts expected. The balance sheet reduction continues. Interest rates remain elevated, and risk assets across the board have been under pressure. Portfolio managers who loaded up on tech stocks and speculative plays are sitting on painful drawdowns. The traditional 60-40 portfolio is struggling, and in this environment, something very interesting is happening. The correlation between Bitcoin and traditional risk assets is breaking down. For years, critics said Bitcoin is just a leveraged bet on the stock market. When stocks go up, Bitcoin goes up more. When stocks go down, Bitcoin goes down more. But the data in 2026 is telling a different story. Bitcoin is beginning to decouple. Not perfectly, not every day, but structurally over longer time frames, the correlation is weakening. And that is exactly what institutional portfolio managers have been waiting for. Here is why that matters. The entire value proposition of adding Bitcoin to a portfolio is diversification. If Bitcoin moves in lockstep with the S&P 500, then there is no point adding it. You already have that exposure. But if Bitcoin offers uncorrelated or low-correlated returns, suddenly it becomes one of the most attractive assets a portfolio manager can hold. It improves your risk-adjusted returns. It reduces your overall portfolio volatility over time, even though Bitcoin itself is volatile. That sounds like a contradiction, but it is basic portfolio theory. An asset that is volatile on its own, but uncorrelated to everything else in your portfolio, actually makes the whole portfolio safer. And the smart money understands this. Now let us talk about what is happening on the institutional side, because this is where the real shift is taking place. CalPERS, the California Public Employees Retirement System, the largest public pension fund in the United States, has been increasing its exposure to digital assets. When a pension fund that manages hundreds of billions of dollars in retirement savings for teachers and firefighters starts taking Bitcoin seriously, that is not speculation. That is a structural change in how the financial system views this asset. And CalPERS is not alone. Pension funds and sovereign wealth institutions across the globe are quietly building positions, either directly or through ETF allocations. Then look at MicroStrategy. The company now holds over 700,000 Bitcoin and has been included in the S&P 500. Think about what that means. Every single index fund that tracks the S&P 500 now has indirect Bitcoin exposure through MicroStrategy. Your retirement account, your 401k, your pension, if it holds an S&P 500 index fund, you already own Bitcoin whether you know it or not. That is how deeply embedded this asset has become in the traditional financial system. And it's not just the financial world. Look at the partnerships being announced. BitGet, one of the largest crypto exchanges, has signed major sponsorship deals with La Liga, one of the biggest football leagues on the planet, and MotoGP, the premier motorcycle racing championship watched by hundreds of millions globally. These are not niche crypto conferences. These are mainstream global brands choosing to align themselves with the digital asset industry. Even UNICEF has been exploring blockchain-based solutions and Bitcoin donations for humanitarian work. When a United Nations agency integrates Bitcoin into its operations, the narrative that crypto is just for criminals and gamblers is completely dead. Now let us talk about the policy environment because it is shifting faster than most people realize. The Senate confirmation process for key financial positions has revealed something important. Names like Kevin Warsh and Scott Bessent have been floated for top economic roles, and both have shown an understanding of digital assets that previous administrations completely lacked. The current political environment in Washington, regardless of which side you sit on, is more favorable to Bitcoin than at any point in history. There is bipartisan recognition that digital assets are not going away and that America needs to lead rather than regulate them out of existence. Proposals around Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, clear regulatory frameworks, and even Bitcoin IRA structures that give Americans tax-advantaged access to Bitcoin are all on the table. And here is the fundamental argument that ties all of this together. We are living through a period of monetary uncertainty unlike anything since the 1970s. The national debt is at record levels. Inflation has become sticky. The Fed is caught between fighting inflation and preventing a recession. Quantitative easing may have been paused, but the structural addiction to debt monetization has not gone away. When the next crisis comes, and it will come, the money printer will turn back on. That is not a prediction. This is a pattern that has been repeated every single time for decades. And in that environment, an asset with a fixed supply, no central authority, and a 15-year track record of outperforming every other asset class on the planet becomes not just attractive, but arguably necessary. Bitcoin is not competing with stocks anymore. It is competing with the entire concept of holding your wealth in a currency that loses value by design. The volatility that scares people away is the exact same thing that creates the opportunity. Every 4-year cycle, Bitcoin shakes out the tourists, rewards the patient, and emerges stronger with a larger base of holders who understand what they own. This cycle is no different in that regard. What is different is the quality of the holders. Pensions institutional, sovereign funds, public companies in the S&P 500, global sports leagues, humanitarian organizations. The collateral base of Bitcoin is expanding into every corner of the global economy. And that doesn't happen to assets that are going to zero. Do you think Bitcoin has finally crossed the point of no return into mainstream adoption, or is there still a risk it gets left behind? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to Mr. DJ Finance if you have not already. I have a video coming on the exact Fed policy scenarios that could send Bitcoin parabolic, and you do not want to miss it. Stay sharp, and I will see you in the next one.